Hi everyone, I'm Catherine, and today is week 3 of the chair yoga series focusing on lower body strength, stretch, and stability. Today is all about the lower body, so we're not using any hand weights. If you have them, great, but I won't be cueing hand weights for anything in this class. May be helpful to have some blocks if you have yoga blocks handy or something that can prop up your feet or a cushion under your leg at certain points. You might have a blanket or a pillow if you prefer to sit on that at certain points in the practice, or use that under the leg when we come to a low lunge. Some sort of soft pillow or blanket might be helpful. If all you have today is a sturdy chair, we can totally work with that too. Just make sure your chair doesn't have wheels. We'll get started. Finding a comfortable seat. Start to feel your sitting bones ground down to the chair. So you might just move a little bit in your chair, maybe take a gentle side to side sway. Decide if you need to be a little bit more forward in the chair or a little bit more back. And then start to draw your shoulder blades back down and away. Feel the top of the head lift up tall, finding our mountain pose or Tadasana. The gaze might close or soften as we take a moment here to connect with the breath, connecting the breath with the body. Let the hands go wherever they're comfortable, maybe resting down by your sides, palms facing in or forward. As you find your breath here, you might set an intention for this practice, for this day, for this year. Whatever comes to you naturally, repeat it to yourself 2 or 3 times in the present tense. If there's nothing, no word, no statement coming to you, that's perfectly okay too. Just enjoy this moment of stillness and breath, setting the tone for the practice ahead. With the next breath, start to flutter the eyes open. Start to walk your feet a little bit wider. Again, today's practice is only about the lower body, so we'll be working from the waist down. If you have anything happening on either side of the body, feel free to take it at the pace, the motion, the distance that feels good in your body. As the toes start to turn just slightly out, the knees are going the same direction as the toes. We're going to take some circles here. So we're starting to warm up the hips, but circling the torso. So just notice as the legs are slightly wider than hips distance apart, and you start to turn the torso here, bringing the heart forward, back, and around a couple times, how this feels within your hips. Going the same direction, a couple more rounds. It could be very small of a movement or a little bit more exaggerated. Start to change direction, go the other way. Keeping the back kind of straight for this. Today's class is osteoporosis and arthritis friendly, so let's work on keeping the spine pretty straight, the head lifted for the duration of this low body strength practice. Start to slow down the circles, coming back to a more neutral position. And from here, we're just going to let the knees come in a few times, in and then back out. The hands could be on top of the legs or holding the sides of the chair. Just a gentle sweep of the feet, the knees in and then back, starting to wake up around the hips. Bringing the legs back to a more neutral position, we'll walk one foot in. Take a hold of your right leg. You might hold under the leg or still hold the side of the chair. And we're just going to circle that knee a couple times. You could also do some of these motions and movements standing, having your chair available as a prop and a tool for support if you want to work your balance a little bit more. So taking a few more circles if you haven't already changed direction, or if you're changing direction every couple of circles, that works too. Just starting to feel into your right hip, noticing how just this motion stabilizes, wakes up the hips. And then start to lower that foot down, let both knees kind of windshield side to side. Finding balance back to a more neutral position. We'll find the same thing on the other side. Knowing the left leg might look or feel very different, honor that, work with it. Maybe one hand rests on the opposite leg. One hand might come under the leg that you're circling. Of course, anytime I say left or right, you can do the other. Just go back and change so we get both sides of the body equally stretched, strengthened, and stabilized throughout the entire time together. If you haven't switched directions, or if you're changing a few times, come to the circles the other way, and then start to lower the foot back down. Again, bringing the hips, the sits bones back to a place in the chair. If you've shifted, let the knees come back to shifting. And let's come down to the feet and ankles, finding heel lifts. If you have shoes on, you might feel better doing this with socks or barefoot. Starting to lift your heels off of the mat, lower the feet back down. Inhale, lift the heel nice and slow, and then start to lower the foot like you're sticking Velcro back down to the floor. Lift the heel, feel the bottom of the foot stretch, the calf engage, and then lower back down. This could also be a little bit more of a cardio workout. If you start to go a bit quicker through some of these exercises, you might start to feel the heart rate increase, some changes in your breath pattern. We're trying to go slow, at least for the first few, to really build up the motion, the strength. You might hear some noises in your ankles and your feet. You might feel one side a little bit different depending on how high one ankle wants to lift up or heel lift up from the floor. Start to slowly lower both feet back down, and now we're going to lift the toes. You should probably start to feel the toe lifts happening more in the front of the leg and the shin. So as the toes lift up and lower down, it might feel awkward at first. Try to resist the whole body swinging. You might feel that the whole body wants to help with the workout. Try to keep that same upright position and just let the toes lift and lower. It's a very small movement, but very effective. So good to strengthen around our ankles, feet, shins, and calves, helping to create that balance in the entire body. Okay, starting to stop or slow down the toe lifts. We're going to take toe taps now. If you want to take the toe taps out to the side, you can let the toes tap out to the side. So a few out to each side, starting to work up some movement through the whole lower body. We'll do 2 on each side. So the toes tap out, in, and in. Come back to the other side. And then come forward a couple times. So you don't want the whole knee to straighten necessarily. We'll just tap forward and come back. Again, notice if the whole body is trying to engage, trying to keep everything today right below the waist. Staying with the forward. If you want to add back into the sides, working the brain a little bit more, you could do a forward, forward, right and left motion, mixing it up however it feels good and exciting for you. Just continuing to tap the toes. We'll take a couple more rounds, maybe going out, maybe tapping forward. Noticing, observing, and continuing to come back to your breath, the inhale and the exhale. Good. Start to slow it down wherever you are, and then lower the feet back down. Come back to your mountain pose, letting the hands rest down by the sides. Let's come to one more shin stretch here. So this may or may not be accessible depending on how high your chair is, how you're fixated in your position. It's going to be a similar position to if you were in a child's pose on a mat, if you practice yoga on the mat or have in the past. So we're going to start to turn the toes down of one foot and then the other. You could do one at a time if one side feels quite different than the other. We're not going to stay here long, but as the toes turn under, we start to feel the whole front of the leg open up. This could be a bit intense in your knees, especially if you've had some knee surgeries or knee challenges in the past. So if it is, start to come out of it on that side that feels less than okay. Maybe taking one side at a time And breathing into this shin stretch, this variation of a lower body child's pose. We'll stay here for another 2 breaths. And then start to uncurl the toes, bring the feet back to a neutral place. And we'll start to circle the ankles. If you want to hold underneath the right leg or even cross the right leg over the left, feel free to lift however it's accessible, maybe even holding on to the side of the chair, taking a few circles of the ankle, a couple of times one way and then the other way. You might even write something with your toes, maybe writing your name, writing a message to yourself, writing an affirmation, playing around with writing in lowercase or uppercase and feeling how this really starts to work up the leg as you write whatever you're sending into the air right now with your toes. And when this side feels complete, maybe slightly fatigued, start to lower the foot down, coming to the other side. Give a minute to maybe tap the foot on the floor, maybe roll out the knee a little bit side to side, and then lift the left leg or the opposite of whatever you did, coming to some circles to start, circling one way and then the other way, maybe a little point and flex of the toe, and then writing your name again, a message, a word, spending about as equal amount of time on this side, letting the body move through all these different positions of flexing, pointing, circling, so that in day-to-day life, when that happens to our ankles, our feet, our toes, they're not as surprised by the motion, by the rotation. They're prepared and warmed up, stabilized. Start to finish off whatever you're writing with this side of the foot, whatever motion you're taking, and then lower the foot back down. Give it a little tap on the floor, little side to side sweep. And let's come to a little bit more strengthening, stretching motion of the body. We're going to come to a lunge. So this may look very different depending on, again, what size, shape, height chair you're in. I like to take the variation of coming sideways in my chair, but if you have sides on your chair, this might be challenging. So you could do this on your knees on the mat if your knees are prepared for that, or you could take a blanket under the shin of the leg that's off the mat. So we're going to turn so one leg is on the mat and one leg is just coming off the side. This may be one setup. Another option might be at the corner of the chair. So the leg comes right behind the corner of the chair. You just want to make sure that you're stable on the chair and your back is upright. So if you have a back of a chair that you can hold on to with one hand, that's also ideal. The back toes of the foot that's bent in the back or that has the quad facing down might be curled under or down. I like to have it curled under, but it could change depending on, again, how close your leg is to the ground. From here, we just pause. This might be plenty, holding the side of the chair, holding the hands at the heart, or you might lift the arm of the leg, of the back leg, straight up, or maybe even bent. And then start to feel as you pull that arm slightly back, the whole connection up this side of the body. Maybe the hand comes behind your back. And as you pull the arm a little bit further back, not back bending the back, just pulling the arm back, you may start to feel a deeper stretch from the knee, up the quad, maybe up the hip. Continue to breathe into it a couple breaths here. Other variations when you're here could be taking a twist. If twisting is comfortable for your body, you could always take the left hand or the back hand over to the front knee, finding just a little gentle twist through the torso. Or holding on to the seat of the chair, you might bend the back foot in and up a couple times if that's accessible for your knee and your body. So a few different variations. This could work the glute a bit more as you kick the heel up towards your back. Just a few is probably plenty. And then pause. If any or all of those variations worked for you, great. If you just did one today, then that's perfect too. Every day might feel and look a little different. Start to rotate to the opposite side. So you're taking the lunge in the opposite side of the chair now. One foot will come back. The other foot both feet are facing sideways. Same direction, opposite as where you were before. Maybe you're on the chair in this side parallel position or on the corner edge of the chair, if that felt more accessible for your body, for your chair. You might hold one hand onto the back of the chair and take the other arm straight up or down your back. This might be plenty today, or maybe you pull the arm just a little bit more back. As the arm stretches back, continue to breathe. Notice how that feels up the leg, from the knee, the quad, to the hip. Maybe even close your eyes so that you can really feel into your body, feeling into the movement, breathing here. If you took a stretch or a twist on the other side of the body and you'd like to do the same here, you could take the hand to the front knee, finding a little twist through the torso. If you took those glute stretches or glute workout that we did on the opposite side, you could hold the sides of the chair and kick the back heel in, kicking the heel just slightly in and back down. Keeping the back lifted nice and strong through the torso. The heel kicks in and lowers back down. Just a couple times is plenty. Lower the foot down, walk the foot back in, coming back, circling the knees a little bit side to side, maybe tapping out your feet gently. And then pausing here. We're going to make our way back to the knees, which might feel really good after doing that lunge. Taking this at a distance that feels comfortable for you. If you haven't watched the previous video that's all about knee health, you might refer to that for some of these movements coming up that are a little bit longer in the other video or more involved. So coming to our knees, we'll start to lift the right knee up. Straighten the leg. It doesn't have to extend fully, but just slightly straighten. Bend the knee and lower. Stay on the same side. We'll do it a few more times. Lift, straighten, bend, and lower. Lift, straighten, bend, and lower. Nice and slow. The rest of the body is pretty still and balanced. Just take one more on this side. And then after that one, we're going to bend the knee, straighten the leg, and pause. You could also try this standing if you want to work your balance a bit more. One leg is extended straight out. The hands might stay at the hips, the heart, or hold the sides of the chair. If it feels better, especially the first couple times you try this, you might even kind of hold under the leg for support. It's totally normal to feel the leg maybe tremble slightly as it's getting used to new movements, new strength. Try to hold it as much as you can, building up some strength above the knee and the leg. Good. With the next breath, start to lower the foot down. And we'll switch to the other side. Same thing, left leg or the opposite of whatever leg you just did. We're going to lift the foot, straighten the leg, bend the knee, and lower. A few more. Try not to rush through this side because you're used to it and you caught on to the rhythm of the last one. Try to stay slow and involved, aware of the movement, aware of how it works from the hip through the leg, the knee, and the quad. Take one more on this side. And then straighten the left leg. You could have a bit of a bend in the knee. There's no need to force it to go fully straight. Maybe you're holding underneath the leg, or maybe you start to test the balance, keeping the hands at the heart or the side of the chair. You can extend the arms out to the side. Do whatever you want with the arms. Just try to keep this hold a little bit longer. Maybe you close the eyes or soften the gaze, trusting that there's nothing that you need to look at in this moment. The leg is there, nothing's moving. You're stable from the chair, you're balanced, you're supported. Good. The next breath, start to lower the foot down and bring the legs back in. Great. Let's come to a figure 4. So the figure 4, you can do standing if you really want to work your strength a little bit more and you feel stable to do this position standing. I would stand behind the chair and then cross one foot, starting with whichever you prefer. We'll start with whichever side you want to start with. It might feel better on the knees to let the toes curl back towards the shin. And then if you're standing, try to keep the spine straight. If you're seated, you're keeping the spine straight too. But if you're standing and you want to start to lower down a little bit, let the tailbone lower down. You can hold on to the back of the chair for support. We're getting an opening through the outside of the hip. Maybe it feels a little bit like the glute area, the piriformis. The hands can rest on top of the legs. If you need to put a block or book or blanket underneath the foot that's down to elevate it a little bit more, you could. As you continue to do this more often, lifting that foot would also probably increase the intensity because the leg is coming closer to your body. So again, this would most likely just be happening if you're seated, not standing. But as I lift that foot, this crossed leg is getting closer to me, making the stretch a little more intense. I could also intensify it by starting to hinge down towards the leg. That brings the leg closer, or the whole body closer to the leg closer to the body. Or you might just have that sensation like this bent knee is opening up a little further away. So you're not trying to force or press it, but just feel and imagine as though this leg is starting to come down. The knee is opening and coming down, and you can feel how that opens up through the hips. Sometimes the visualization of what's happening really makes a big change in the body. Breathing here for another breath or two. And then slowly come back up to a stand if you were in a squat or a standing position. Start to gently release the leg down. Switching to the other side, if you used the block to elevate the foot, you could move the block over to the opposite foot. If you were standing and you prefer to sit for this next one, take whichever variation works best. And also, I should have mentioned on the other side, but if you want to place the block down next to your foot and just cross the foot over to the block, that may be a lower option. That feels quite different too. It might be more accessible and supportive. And it also changes the stretch a bit. So that could be another option if being up on top of the leg didn't feel right or just didn't work for you today or any day. The foot could be on the floor or on a block crossed over. All the same things work with that. So the foot being back towards the shin may help the knee a little bit. Feeling that sensation like the knee is opening further towards the opposite direction. Maybe the hands just rest on the top of the legs, not to force or press or open. Keeping the heart and the head and the spine lifted up, nice and tall. Breathing here. If you're in a standing position, maybe you start to feel the tailbone lower down deeper into a squat. If you're seated and you want to extend the heart towards the legs, intensifying the sensation too, that might work or feel good for you. Even if it's just for 1 or 2 breaths, staying here. Good. Taking your time to come back up to a seat, upright. If you're standing, start to straighten through the leg. If you were squatted, release the crossed leg. Let the knees sway side to side. Pause. Feel the body. Feel the hips. And breathe for a moment here. Great. In the next position, we're going to take a tree pose. So the tree is probably going to feel quite similar to the figure 4 that we just did. couple different variations. So if you're staying seated for tree, you could take the foot inside the ankle this time. So you could still create that opening through the leg. Maybe you hold more of the inside of the leg rather than the top. Or you could bring the foot up to your shin. You're still testing a bit of balance here. Maybe the arms are at the heart or open towards the sky. You could place the foot on top of the block here too, working your balance in that way. Let the knee be wherever it is. So if the knee is more facing in or out, find what feels comfortable here. Find the arms that feel good. And then find a gazing point straight ahead, knowing there's nothing to see. Just let the gaze go straight so the neck remains straight too. If you're standing, you could come up and use the chair as a support, bringing one foot, the foot furthest away from the chair, towards either your ankle, a block, the shin, or the thigh. Find a place along the body that feels good. Few variations. Maybe you have the sensation like the knee is opening a bit further back, similar to like what we did seated, or maybe the knee is further in. It's going to change how it feels and works in the lower body. The glute of your standing leg, the hip, the calf, everything is working really hard to keep you stabilized. Maybe the hands come to the heart. Maybe you keep one or both hands on the chair. Maybe you extend the hands overhead. Let the hands be wherever they help you to be stable. And then find your gazing point that keeps the back, the neck straight, the jaw relaxed. Breathing here. Let any shaking or swaying happen. Know that it's all part of the practice. Coming in and coming back out as much as the foot wants to tap back down. Stay curious, stay present, stay patient. It's all a practice. And then take your time to lower the foot down, whether it's on a block, on the mat. Let the ankles, the hips sway out a bit here. And then come to the other side. So if you want to come over to your opposite side of the chair for support, if you want to stay on the same side, find what feels good in your body on that way. And then bring the opposite foot in. So if you're seated, you would do the same thing. You would take the foot to cross over to a block. If you're standing, you'll do the same thing as the other side. Maybe one side you sit, one side you stand. Let the hands go wherever the hands want to be in this part of the practice. And stay here in breath, in presence, creating this stability through the entire lower body. Find a couple more deep breaths here in whichever variation you've taken. Again, being kind to yourself if one side is feeling oh so much different than the other. It's all a practice to balance both the left and the right sides. Slowly start to lower the foot down. Shake out the ankles, the hips a little bit. Whether you're seated or standing, find whatever motion counterbalances that position. And then come back to the chair if you're seated, if you're standing. Maybe bringing a block or a support item underneath your foot. We're going to come to a butterfly position. So you might put one block or something to prop the feet up higher. If the feet touch the floor easily, based in the chair that you're in, then just go with the floor alone. The hands might rest at the inside of the legs or the outside, or you might hold the sides of the chair and just let the knees come up and down a few times. So you can just hold here, stay in butterfly without the motion, or you can let the soles of the feet, the inside of the feet, gently press together as the knees find a gentle lift and lower. Let the back be strong, straight, stable. The hands be wherever they feel supportive. And then take your time to pause in the hold. If you are finding the movement, pause, feel the hold. Maybe find a little bit of a hinge forward with a flat back, just to feel how that changes in the lower body. Big breath here. Take your time to come back up. Gently guide the knees back in together. You might keep the block accessible there, or you could push it over to the side. I'll show you the next and last movement that we'll take. So we're going to take a twist to the side with the legs. If you can cross the right leg over the top of the left knee, you can take the outside of the shin to gently sway the knee down. The back is staying upright, so I'm working to open up through the outer side of the opposite leg. So in this case, it's my left leg. If that's not comfortable, you can uncross the legs and just gently take the hand to open the knees to the opposite side. If you're comfortable crossing the legs even more, you could take like an eagle bind of the legs and let one leg gently shift the opposite knee down. The further the knee starts to go down in the opposite direction, the more the intensity up the side of the leg will start to feel. So go gentle with this. Where you might add the support item would be under the foot that's on the floor. So right now I only have the left foot on the floor, the one that's being stretched. If I needed to put a block under those toes to elevate the leg, that might be an option. Slowly start to bring the knees, legs back up, bring the hips back to the chair, sway out the knees, and then we'll come straight to the other side. So if I needed that or wanted to have the block under the right leg, I could have that under the foot and cross the left leg over the right, gently drawing the knees down. So the leg is helping to support the stretch through the right side, right where that IT band runs. You can let the gaze in the back go in the same direction of the knees. You can look straight ahead. We're not trying to create a twist through the back here. We're just trying to find the space in the outer leg. You can take as much of a bind with the leg as it feels comfortable. That will probably change sensation through the stretch a bit. Or you don't need to take the bind at all, and you can just gently guide the knees over. Breathing here, holding on to the chair for support if that feels more comfortable. And then gently start to bring the legs back up, moving your props out of the way or placing the blocks under your feet. Let the legs find a comfortable, relaxed position. Let the arms, the back, the gaze all rest here for just a moment, maybe sending this moment of appreciation, gratitude, and love to your lower body for its work to strength, stabilize, balance the rest of the body. Breathing in deeply, breathing out fully, staying here in the final place of Shavasana as long as you can for this day, or continuing on, coming out of the practice with so much love and gratitude. Thank you so much for joining. If you'd like to add some upper body strength and stability in, you might go back to week 2 or some of the future weeks ahead to find more full body flows and stretch. Thank you so much.